It's a viral story about a female journalist who took $50,000 out of her bank account, placed it in a shoebox, and handed it to a stranger. And then she wrote an article about, heavens, how could I have been scammed and fallen for this? And the only thing I can think of is that you must be asking yourself, how am I stupider than she is that she could even have the $50,000? Like, what am I doing wrong? Well, I don't know. You're not stupider. Many of you probably do have savings, but there are certainly many of you who are like, there is no way I would be stupid enough to give $50,000 out of my bank, put it in a shoebox, give it to a guy in an SUV, and watch him drive off as I smiled. How could that happen? Well, the world is not fair, my friends, but this story is legit one of the funniest things I have ever read. I feel bad for this lady. She got scammed. But someone tweeted out at me. I said it's legit one of the funniest stories I've ever read. And they said, imagine being stupid enough to get scammed out of $50,000 by putting it in a shoebox and handing it to a stranger. But imagine even being stupid enough to then write about how you deserved to be scammed. Okay, all right. Nobody deserved to be scammed. And scams happen to the best of us. In this particular instance, holy crap, I'm going to give you the gist of the story. I'm going to read through a bit of it. But this one is particularly what? Okay, dude, I am terrified of scams, okay? Because you never know, right? We're doing big business. We're buying properties. We're setting up companies. It's funny when all these, these far leftists are like, how does Tim Pool have money? It's like, I run like 30 companies, like a whole bunch. A lot of wire transfers, a lot of contracting deals. It's not just what you see here on this YouTube. That means when I got to wire someone like $100,000 for a project, I check every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and then I'm like, now resend it and call me and meet me in person, because there are 1,000,001 ways to scam people out of money that don't involve being stupid. That is, you could be working on, let's say you're doing some kind of like loan agreement. You're going to buy a house and you've got to do a wire transfer for like $15,000 or $20,000, maybe more than that. I mean, if you're buying a house and let's say it's like $200,000 and you're going to put 20% down, $40,000 has to be wired. And so you go to the lawyer and he's like, sign the paperwork and do all this. Here's the seller. You shake hands. You're like, everything looks good. Here's the deed. You got title insurance. Everything's taken care of. And you're like, all right, everything looks perfect. And then you get an email from the guy being like, wire instructions are as follows. Please confirm, respond, that you've gotten them. And you do. And the email says, you get another email shortly back after saying, you can wire instructions are good to go. Please wire now. Appointment will be later. You go to the bank. You hand the guy all the information. Everything looks good. You met him in person. You got title. You got everything done. You sign it off and say, there we go. $40,000 wired away. It's like, you're good to go. We're good. We're confirmed. We have the number. Everything's confirmed. And bang, everything's wired off. And you're like really excited. Like, that's it. Like, that was the down payment. We're getting the house. And then you get another email from the lawyer saying, wire instructions are as followed. Please call me back and let me know you've confirmed this, and we can meet up at this date. And you go, wait, I already got the wire instructions. What do you mean? And you call and say, we just wired the money. And they say, oh, you did? Okay, great. Well, we haven't gotten it yet. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then it turns out what happened was you were hacked. You were being spied on. And someone sent you a spoofed email giving you false wire instructions so that you would wire to the wrong person. Things like that could happen. I know the scenario described as a little bit rare, but we gotta go through the story. Okay, here's the gist of the story, because I know I was ranting for 4 minutes already. The important point of the story and why I think it's relevant to all of us is it's about a journalist. And these are the kind of people who are writing the news. This is a woman who received a phone call from Amazon, allegedly, who told her that her identity had been stolen and she was going to be transferred to the FTC. So then she gets a phone call from the FTC, and the guy claims he's investigating her for serious crimes and she's being investigated and they're going to freeze her assets. He's going to transfer her now to the CIA. And she's like, okay. And then the CIA guy on the phone is like, yeah, basically money laundering, theft, stolen cars, and you're the one who's going to go to jail for it. And so she's like, Oh no, what do I do, ma'am? You have to take $50,000 out of your bank account, put it in a shoebox, and hand it to my guy. And she goes, okay, whatever you say. How could anyone fall for that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, no one ever accused journalists of being smart people. Let me read through as much of this as I can, because I don't want to make like a 50-minute video reading this whole article. I just want to give you the key points. But it's how the day I put $50,000 in a shoebox and handed it to a stranger, I never thought I was the kind of person to fall for a scam. I feel bad that she got scammed, okay? But like, there's a point in the story where she has all of her family savings, okay, most of it, or most of her savings. I don't know, maybe her husband has hidden assets or separate assets. And she walks past her husband like, what's going on? She's like, shh. And then she goes inside and gives all the money away. Amazing. Later on, he's like, why didn't you tell me? I would have stopped you. And she's like, I don't know. I'm a journalist. On Tuesday evening this past October, I put $50,000 in cash in a shoebox, taped it shut as instructed, and carried it to the sidewalk in front of my apartment. My phone clasped to my ear. Don't let anyone hurt me, I told the man on the phone, feeling pathetic. You won't be hurt. Just keep doing exactly as I say. 3 minutes later, a white Mercedes SUV pulled up to the curb. The back window will open, said the man on the phone. Do not look at the driver or talk to him. Put the box through the window, say thank you, and go back inside. Now, when you first read this, it seems like her family was being threatened. When she said, do not let anyone hurt me, they're going to say the man on the phone knew my home address, my social security number, the names of my family members, and that my 2-year-old son was playing in our living room. He told me that my home was being watched, my laptop had been hacked, and we were in imminent danger. I can help you, but only if you cooperate. His first orders, don't tell anyone, not her spouse, not the police, not a lawyer. Well, when I first read this, I was like, heavens, did someone call her up and go, hello, Charlotte. I can see your 2-year-old son playing in your living room right now. I have your social security number, your phone. I know where your husband is. And if you don't give me $50,000 in cash, bad things will happen to you and your family. Oh, that'd be scary, right? That's not a scam. That's a threat of like harm and death to your family. If someone was like, holy crap, someone's seriously threatening me. And then the person went on to say, if you contact the police, your spouse, or a lawyer, insert threat, I'd be like, that's not, it's a scam, but like, that's like strong-armed robbery. Like you are threatening harm. That's not what happened. That is not what happened in this story. What happened in the story is the guy's like, I'm a police officer. Please take out $50,000 and hand it to a strange man in a vehicle. And she was like, well, okay, then. You know, it's funny. Throughout the story, she's like, I feel like I'm being scammed, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is wild stuff. She says, I've told the people the story. Most of them say the same thing. You never see it coming. She mentions that Gen Z and millennials and Gen X, 34% more likely to lose money to fraud compared with those over the age of 60. It's really amazing. So I'm going to give you the gist of the story. Here we go. It's the morning of October 31st. She's dressing up her kid for Halloween. Her phone rings. The caller ID said Amazon. I answered. Stop. Why? This is the first question I have. My phone rings all the time. I don't answer it for anybody. I don't even answer it. I just literally don't answer it. I will never answer my phone. Never. That's just me. But I also clarify, I don't actually have a phone. I guess the difference between me and this lady is that as the CEO of a big company who gets like thousands of emails every day, I actually don't own a computer or a phone that is like my device. You know what I mean? Because with accounting, with legal and stuff, people have access to all of it. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's a weird. There's a point in my life where all of a sudden it's like, I didn't have a computer anymore. I had a computer, I'd play video games on it. No, I have a Steam Deck. I play Baldur's Gate 3, Fallout, Skater XL, and Spelunky. That's what I have. And even that, like, technically someone else could play, but there's no files or anything stored on it other than the video game stuff. There's no personal computer I sit down at. There's nothing where I personally download and store files or have anything like that. The computer that I'm using right now is a work machine used by, I don't know, like half a dozen people or more. I have like 7 different phones that I have used for various things, and I'll carry them around sometimes, but other people have access to them in certain contexts. So anyway, long story short, let's read. So the Amazon lady says, asked her if she had spent $8,000 on MacBooks and iPads. She checked her account. Nothing was wrong. She goes on to explain Nothing in her banks, nothing on her credit cards, literally nothing. The lady says that she was the victim of identity theft and was going to, she was working with someone at the FTC who was investigating fraud, and would she connect? And she said, sure, I guess. Okay, at this point, if I got a call from Amazon, I got to be honest, I get a lot of texts and calls and emails, and it's like from a crediting institution or a bank. I just hit delete. Y'all, you can send me a certified letter if you really want to get in touch with me. And then I will physically show up to your location and ask you about it. And if you can't answer it, I throw it in the garbage. Anyway, so she gets transferred to this guy who calls himself Calvin, said he worked with the FTC, gave her a badge number, said the call was being recorded, and then asked her about 22 bank accounts, 9 vehicles, 4 properties, more than $3 million being wired overseas, mostly to Jamaica and Iraq. Did you know anything about this? No. Do you know someone named Stella Suk Yi Kwang? No, I don't. Here's a photo of the ID. Do you have anything? Do you know anything about this? A car found in Texas. There's blood and drugs. This is on you. He said there were warrants out for her arrest in Maryland and Texas, and that she was being charged with cyber crimes, money laundering, and drug trafficking. My head swam. I Googled my name along with warrant, money laundering. Nothing came up. Were arrests, warrants public? I don't know. I am in deep-ish, I texted my husband. My identity was stolen and it seems really bad. Calvin wanted to know if I knew anybody who might be the culprit. No, I said. I don't know. Maybe. At this point, I'd like to also point out, if you believe you are being investigated for very serious crimes and you are talking with law enforcement and they are asking you to give up details, you will go to prison. There is no circumstance, none, zero, where you talking to law enforcement could benefit you in any way. None. I'm talking about if you're and I mean it. Let's start with you were the victim of a crime. And you argue, okay, maybe I can help by giving a description or whatever. Okay. Let's play a little nuance game. Maybe there's like a 1%, 0.1%, where it's like the car that hit me was this description. They say, okay. Typically, police do not investigate crimes to completion. So realistically, even if you give a description about something that's going on, it's not going to help. If you were the victim of a violent crime, no, don't get me wrong. Like there are certain circumstances where you need to give a statement to the police that I get. But in almost all circumstances, they're not going to help you. They're not. I had a vehicle stolen once and I called the police and I gave them a description and they did nothing. And they said, what do you think we're going to do about it? What do you think we can do about it? I told this story before, assaulted in New York and I called the police and the police robbed me. I'm not kidding. They told me, take out your wallet, give us your cash, or you go to jail. I'm not kidding. And what can I do? Call IA after that? Pfft, that's New York. I understand there's certain circumstances, someone breaks in your house, you give the police a statement. The reality is, in a circumstance like this, and in most circumstances where the police are calling you and asking you and saying you're being investigated, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They tell you that. Anyway, he goes on to say, have you ever used public Wi-Fi at the airport? He says, yes. He goes, aha, there it is. He says, anyone can be a suspect. It's like, not my husband. He's like, you never know. But he basically goes on to say that maybe it's not your husband, but if you tell him, you could actually implicate him, and now he could get a warrant for his arrest. So she goes on to talk about how she's heard these stories before about how people have their identities stolen. I want to get to the meat and potatoes here. So he basically asks her, how much money do you have? She has $80,000 saved up. It's an emergency fund that she slowly saved over a long amount of time. And he said, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to transfer you to a CIA agent, the lead investigator. He's going to give you a 9-digit case number for your records. The CIA would tell you what to do next. So she's like, if it was a scam, I couldn't see the angle. Nobody asked me for money. Nothing was going on. I had no idea. So what was she going to say if she called the police? My identity was stolen. Help. I have no proof. The reality is if she called the police and said, ma'am, you are being scammed, stop. Do not respond. Do not answer the phone. So next thing that happens is she says the next man, I guess it's all one phone call. The next guy who gets on the phone has a deeper British voice, says he's the CIA handling cases involving the FTC and gave a badge number. He sent her, he said, go to the FTC homepage and look up the main phone number. Now hang up the phone and I will call you from that number right now. This is one of the best parts. He calls her from that number and she says, how do I know you're not just spoofing this? And he says, it's a government number. It cannot be spoofed. Like, she knew what spoofing was. Dude, you are supposed to call them back. I love this because I've had my bank really did this. They called me and they were like, we're helping with, your account and blah, blah, blah. And it was real. I know it was real. And it was something related to a financial thing, like a credit card or something. And they were like, okay, so we're going to move forward. But to first, in order to verify the details, you're going to need to give me your name, address, social. And I laughed and I was like, nice try, buddy. Isn't you nuts? You called me. And he was like, I know, but we need to verify your identity. I'm like, no, you need to verify your identity. I was like, you give me your private bank details. I want to know the name of the ACH. I want to know your bank. And they were like, we can't give that. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to hang up on you now. I'm going to call my bank. And he's like, okay. And I called my bank and it was the bank that was doing that. I'm like, you guys are nuts. Anyway, so it's a government number, he said, almost indignant. It cannot be spoofed. I admitted I had texted my husband and he says, you have to, in many cases, we'll investigate your husband if that's the case. He said, you're being investigated for major federal crimes. By keeping your husband out of this, you're protecting him. So she deletes, she says, I deleted the text. He sends text back saying, don't worry, it'll be okay. It felt gross imagining a third party reading all along. He snowed her the same stories that Calvin had. This is the guy pretending to be a CIA. New Mexico, drugs, blah, blah, blah. He said, if you talk to an attorney, I cannot help you anymore. You'll be considered non-cooperative. Your home will be raided and your assets will be seized. You may be arrested. It's your choice. This seemed ludicrous. I pictured officers tramping in, taking my laptop. Can I just come into your office and sort this out in person? And he said, my office is in Langley. We don't have enough time. We need to act immediately. I'm going to talk you through the process. It's going to sound crazy, but we must follow protocol if we're going to catch the people behind this. He said they're going to freeze all her assets. I'll give you the gist of it. They're going to freeze her assets, shut down her Social Security, give her a new Social Security number, and then she needs to take out as much money as she thinks she needs from her bank and give it to them. They will hand her a government-issued check clearing the money so that all of the other assets are frozen because they're investigating her accounts, and she can live off of that money, the $50K, and the new Social Security number. He asked her how much she thought she would need. She said $50,000. He said, okay, go to the bank and get that cash. Do not tell them what it is for, because in many cases, the identity thief, it was someone who worked at the bank. I love this. I absolutely love this. He says, it's important to monitor where this money goes from now on. All of your assets are part of the investigation. He told me that one of his colleagues would meet at her apartment to guide her through the next steps. You can't send a complete stranger to my home. My 2-year-old son will be here. Let me worry about that. It's my job. But if you don't cooperate, I cannot keep you safe. She says it's impossible to explain why I accepted this logic. Stop. Could it be that you are not a smart person? DC journalist. But I'd given marching orders and a deadline. My son would be home soon, and I had to fix this mess. I put on sneakers in case I needed to run. I brought a backpack for the cash. It's amazing. So she goes to the bank. She says, Michael's on speakerphone. I asked the teller for $50,000. The woman behind the thick glass raised her eyebrows, disappeared into the back room, came back with a large metal box of $100 in bills, counted them out with a machine. She pushed the stack of bills through the slot along with a sheet of paper, warning me against scams. I thanked her and left. The fake CIA agent said, you did a great job. I have to go for a moment to see about the details of your case. I'm going to have you speak to my colleague if you have questions. He put a woman on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Said it was a protocol. She said no government agency would establish this as protocol. It was preposterous. I need to speak with Michael. I told the woman on the phone, I don't even believe that you're a CIA agent. What you're asking me to do is completely unreasonable. So he sends a photo of a badge. She's like, I don't even know if it's real. He said, I don't know what else to tell you. You can trust me and I will help you, or you can hang up and put yourself and your family in danger. Do you really want to take that risk with a young child? I waited for a stoplight at a busy intersection. I could see my apartment window, blah, blah, blah. She says, I don't trust you, but seems like I don't have a choice. Lady, you had a choice. You could have told your husband. That's it right there. But then he would be investigated and go to jail too. Marriages are privileged. Furthermore, she could have opened the box showing the money, and then he would have taken it from her and said, "Are you nuts?" So when I got home, well, she gets home, she has the cash. She puts it in a box, in a shoebox, says, write down your information on it. My colleague will be there soon. Tonight, we will close down your social security number. Tomorrow, you'll need to go get a new one from the social security office. We'll secure the money for you. She says, why can't I use the cash? And he basically said, all of this is going to be frozen. We are giving you a government check, which is clean money. I need to see your colleague's badge. He said, undercover agents don't carry badges. They're undercover, remember. You are probably being watched. The criminals cannot know that a CIA agent is there. Okay. You see, the funny thing here is the CIA is not going to send agents like this. It is not Burn Notice, where there is a guy who's a CIA agent who's going to come and do this specialty job like that. The CIA, furthermore, is supposed to be operating outside of the UIS. The USA. The CIA, I mixed them up. The UIS, I don't know what that is. The USA. So it would be more like FBI or contractor or something like that if anyone was going to be meeting with you. She said, in a twisted way, this made sense to me. Or maybe I'd lost my grip on reality. Michael seemed to sense that I was flagging and asked if I had lunch. She says, to eat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, she says, he asked what she does for work. She says she's going to be in D.C. He says, oh, you can visit me in Langley. A little after 6, Michael told me to go downstairs. My husband had just come home, says, what's going on? I whispered, I have to go downstairs and meet with the guy who's helping with the identity theft case. I'll explain more later. He frowned and silently mouthed, what? I met the SUV at the curb and I put the money in the back seat. It was 6:06 p.m. Even if I tried to see who was driving, the windows were tinted. It was dusk. He maybe wore a baseball cap. When I turned around, I could see the backlit faces of my husband and son watching from our apartment 9 stories above. As I walked back inside, Michael texted me a photo of a treasury check made out to me for $50,000 and told me a hard copy would be hand-delivered in the morning. He was working on setting up my appointment with the Social Security office. You will receive a confirmation text shortly. Stay on the line until you do. I took my son trick-or-treating with the phone still on. It's been 5 hours. Eventually, the guy's not coming back, so it'll call. She eventually starts to realize what's going on and then says, oh my God, you're lying to me. You just took my money and I'm never getting it back. Dude. Through choking sobs, I told my husband. He said, why didn't you tell me? I would have stopped you. That I'd been trying to protect him suddenly seemed so idiotic I couldn't even say it out loud. Our son looked on confused, Mama said. At their urging, I called 911. The police said, don't worry, they probably got what they wanted, blah, blah, blah. And the lady gave away $50,000 because she is not a very smart person. She says, I can't believe I was scammed. She thinks she's a smart person. Okay, lady, I'm sad you got scammed. I feel bad for you. But the most important thing is understand. Anybody can be scammed. Anybody. Even me, even you. That's why I take it very, very seriously. Smart people are less likely to be scammed, but there are still ways to scam smart people by exploiting their assumptions that they're smart people. The reality is just, it's tough out there. And sometimes you might be a victim of a scam and you don't even realize it. Keep your security, keep your defenses up. I just think it's hilarious. This woman's like, I am a journalist. I should not be scammed. These people, they write fake news. They are not smart. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Remarkable, remarkable story. I got a story for you guys. So a friend of mine one day said, I forgot how it came up. It was actually a friend of a friend that I'd met, and they ended up letting me crash at their place in this weird little room that was like, it was a room, but it was not, I guess it was considered a pantry, right? But hold on. It was actually between the living room and the kitchen separately with 2 doors, and it was just an empty, like, I don't know, let me describe, 10 by 8 foot room with nothing in it. So I was like, I'll take it. College students, couple $100 a month, super cheap. Everybody was excited for the arrangement. So anyway, my buddy, we're hanging out one day, sitting on the couch, and he makes reference to something about, I can't remember how it came up, but he mentions that he was going to loan it. He was thinking about whether or not he should loan his buddy $5,000. And he was talking to one of the other roommates about it. And I was like, wait, what, dude? And he's like, yeah, my buddy needs $5,000 for his wedding. I don't know if I should give it to him. And I was like, what is it? Like, who's your buddy? And he's like, well, it's a guy I work with. And I know he's good for the money because he's paid me back before, but this is like a big deal. And so I don't know. I think I might just lend him the money because he'll probably pay me back. And I was like, wait, dude. What does he need the money for? His wedding? Yeah, like, so he's from China And his family is super traditional, and they're mad that he's marrying a woman who's not like part of the like their tradition. Like it's like an outside marriage, but he loves her. And so he wants to have his own wedding, and he's going to fly back to China. They're going to do the wedding, and then he's going to come back. And like I work with the guy, I worked with him for a long time. And I was like, dude, you're being scammed. And he was like, nah, I don't think so. Like, I know this guy. I worked with him for a long time. Like, what's a long time? I don't know, like several months. And I'm like, yeah, you're being scammed. And he's like, dude, he paid me back before. Like, I've lent him money before. He pays me back. And I was like, oh, dude. Yes, he's building the con to steal your money. And so he's like, I don't believe that, dude. And I was like, what happened when he paid you back before? And he's like, there was he wanted to bet on a I can't remember this. It was this is like 15 years ago. It was like he wanted to bet on a sporting event. No, this is probably like 17 years ago. He wanted to bet on a sporting event, and he asked me if I could lend him $500. And then he was like, we get paid next week. I'll pay you back. And then I was like, sure, okay. So I lent him the $500. He bet. His team lost. His team. He told me he was going to bet on this team, and then they lost. And then that Friday, he paid me back. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what he actually did. He took your $500. He put it under his mattress, waited a week, gave you the money back, and said, oh, I lost, but here's the money back. Thanks for lending it to me. That's called a con. Con is short for confidence. He's building your confidence so that he can convince you to give him more money. And he was like, I don't know, man. And I was like, okay, dude, if you give him that money, you're going to lose it. And he's like, I think you're crazy. Guess what happened? The guy left and never came back. Oh, that was funny. I remember hearing about it. I'm like, so you lent the guy the money? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, and what happened next? Like, I don't know. He's been gone for a couple months. I'm like, dude, that was the point. He comes to you and says, let me borrow $20. I'll pay you back I'll pay you back tomorrow. He doesn't do anything with the $20. He puts it in his pocket. Tomorrow he comes back, takes the 20 out, and hands it back to you and said, here's the money. You think he didn't know. Then a week later, he's like, hey, let me borrow $100, man. I'll pay you back. I paid you back last time. Trust me. And he's like, okay, fine. Here's $100. He puts it in his pocket, does nothing with it, comes back, hands it back to you. All right. Here's your $100 back. Thanks for lending me the money. It's the same $100 bill probably. Or he washes it. He like breaks change. Then he comes back and hands you 20s or like a few singles to make it look like he did something. Or he comes back. He's like, I won the bet. Like I made a bunch of money. Here's your money back. Then it was $500. It's like, bro, we're getting paid. I'm going to have the money in my check. I can pay you back. Now you built the confidence. This guy always being paid. I lend him money all the time. He pays me back all the time. It's no big deal. This one's serious though. He's a friend of mine. We hung out. He wants to get married. Here's the best part. Where did that $5,000 come from? His student loans. That's what he told me. I asked him where he even had the money from, and he's like, it's my student loan money, but it's like whatever. And I'm like, are you crazy, dude? That's not even your money. It's a loan. Apparently, the guy never came back. Now, hey, look, it's been a long time. For all I know, he got caught up in customs. 6 months later, he came back and said, I have never been happier. Here's your money back. But I am a firm believer in that it was just a scam. And he gave $5,000 away to a guy who probably very much enjoyed it and then left. Scams, man. People fall for them. But I'll tell you this. When there are scams, like when you're experiencing a scam, typically the scammer sounds really dumb. The scam should be unbelievable. It's one of the ways you know it's a scam. But that's the issue. The reason why the Nigerian prince emails are often littered with grammatical errors, everybody likes to make fun of them because they think they're so smart. But this is how the scammers trick you. It's fascinating. I've seen all these articles where they're like these Nigerian scammers. They'll email you saying, I'm a prince and my money's locked up. I need help. And these midwits are like, but I noticed the grammatical errors because these people are too stupid to get one off of on me. Yeah, perhaps. But the grammatical errors are on purpose. They want to weed out anyone who might notice it's a scam. When they can email 100,000 people by downloading a stolen email list, blast out an email. If they make it look real and smart and intelligent and highbrow, they will end up wasting their time on people who are like, wait a minute, this sounds like a scam. I quit. What they want is some doofy dotard with money lying around to wire them money. There are other scams. There's one scam where they have these jobs where they call it like financial liaison, or they'll say like courier. And they'll say like, we work for a closing house where it's for real estate sales. And basically the scam will be like, it'll look like a job posting. And they'll say the job is basically a closing agent for real estate. You'll be given documents on a property and you'll have to do bank runs for the business. They make you believe that your job is something like, and they're not all like this, but your job is something like the agent will give you like it's a low level job. It's really boring. The agent will give you the documents for the property and the check. You go to the bank, cash the check, and then you bring the deposit back to the office and drop off the envelope. Really boring, tedious stuff. Typically, these are just the fees for the closing house. And, here's what's really happening. When you get the check, it's fake. And when you go to the bank, they will cash it against your account. And most people don't know this. So what happens is you think you're getting a job. You meet a guy who's like, yeah, we sell these properties. And so basically, the agents don't have time to go run to the bank and do the courier, the drop off stuff. It's really low level stuff, so it only pays a little bit. But we'll pay you $10 an hour, and then you'll do maybe like maybe only like 2 runs a week. So what really happens is depending on who you are and if they how much money you might have, and they assess it, they might say like, here's a fee we received, it's $500. Check it, drop it back off. Here's the address. When you do, you give the bank the check. They hand you the cash. You say thank you. You hand it to them, and then 2 days later, your account is minus $500. You gave them your ID, they cashed the check for you. And what happens is when the check came back bad, they deduct it from your account. There was and that typically only works when it's cashed at your bank. So there's obviously there's ways they pull the scam off. They'll ask you about what bank do you use? It's probably easier if we just go to your local bank or stuff like this. Scams, man. There's a lot of young people I knew that had stories like that. It's true. They thought they were getting a job. And they thought it was an easy job. They were like, oh, I'm working for a law firm. We do real estate, or we do medical sales, insert whatever. And they didn't realize, simple as that. You cash the check. That's your money they're taking. There's also, I heard a story. I don't know how true it is, but someone I knew actually got arrested for it. When they tried cashing the check, cops came in and grabbed them and then accused them of wrongdoing. And they were just like, I answered an ad on Craigslist for a job. I have no idea what's going on, because they knew the bad checks were being passed around. But I'll just say this, as much as we're laughing at this story, and, it's from last week. I'm recording this early. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I think it's important to realize, man, once again, when you think you are invincible and you cannot be scammed, that's when you get scammed. If people could not be manipulated, Coca-Cola wouldn't be buying billboards. I have this trick. You can probably try it. It's not so cut and dry. It's not so easy. But I grew up with a bunch of hacker friends, computer hackers, and within the hacking community is something called social engineering, which is not, as many people in the modern colloquialism is that social engineering is like manipulating the fabric of society. The general hacker term is essentially manipulating a person through expectations, like what this story is. You'll go to jail, you'll be arrested. And so, social engineering is what they did to her, this scam. So I know a lot of tricks. I know a lot of sales techniques. And I love doing this thing when I talk to people about scams and manipulation and social engineering. I always tell people before I get started explaining all of it, because you need about a 10-minute gap from when you say it to when you pull off the trick, because you people need a rest period where their mind resets. And I'll explain. I say to people, yeah, social engineering, blah, blah, blah. And they will say, yeah, but that doesn't work on me. I tell people, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to explain to you the nature of social engineering, and I am going to make you say what I want you to say. At the end of all of this, you are going to tell me, yeah, but that wouldn't work on me. And then they laugh and they say, oh, okay, for real? Then you explain all the basics. I'll say things like the basic, I've talked about this before, like manipulation of opinion is called rapport extreme turn. I mean, everyone's got their own techniques, their own explanations, but it's basically approach someone with rapport as a friend, as an ally, give them an extreme circumstance they can't agree with, and then turn it on them, making them come up with the idea. The example being war, for instance. Simple example. Someone's an Obama supporter. You approach them, I love Obama too. You high five, rapport. Now that they feel that you are friends and you agree, you move forward. Extreme. I love Obama blowing up these weddings because these are bad people, and I think we got to kill first, ask questions later. Average person disagrees with that. They'll say, no, that's horrible. That's really bad. Turn. You say, well, I guess you're right. Obama's not perfect. That is the basics of manipulation. Now, when it comes to, that stuff, after you tell someone, they're going to say, yeah, but that won't work on me. You then explain something like rapport extreme turn. You can then explain incrementalization, reasonable boundaries, as they're referred to. That is, let's say on a scale of 0 to 100, 50, let's just say negative 100 to 100, so we can say 0 is neutral. Negative 100 is hating someone. Positive 100 is loving someone. When a person first meets another person, they're typically around, minus 10 to positive 10. If they're a liberal and they see you wearing a Trump hat, you're going to be in the negative category, but they don't hate you. They're going to fight you or scream at you, although it does get pretty extreme when it comes to Trump. You cannot make someone absolutely hate someone right away because they have reasonable boundaries. That means you have to inch them in a direction, slowly, one step at a time. Okay. Now, after you give them these basic explanations, and it's been about a minute or two, you say, see? And that is the basics of manipulation. It works on everybody. And they'll go, yeah, but that wouldn't work on me. And then to which I say, remember at the beginning of this conversation, I told you I could make you say, quote, yeah, but that wouldn't work on me. You just said it. I manipulated you into saying that. And they go, oh, but that's not, you didn't make me say it. You just knew that I was going to say it. And I'm like, exactly. I knew what you were going to say based on the things I was about to say. You said what I wanted. Now imagine I wanted you to say certain words and I wanted to record it for some reason. The point is this, the reason why I tell you all this stuff. Anyone and everyone can be scammed, no matter who you are. All that matters is that your reasonable expectations are manipulated in such a way that you end up making a misstep without realizing it. Like I mentioned early on, you're doing a legitimate transaction, you're working with a law firm, and then you get an email that looks like the same emails you've received, the same, everything's perfect. But that wire transfer number is different, and so you think it's real. They have safeguards for this. They say call in to confirm. There are ways around that. You get an email, said, here's the wire instructions. A few minutes after you get it, you get a phone call from that number, and it is the young woman that sounds like it could be the secretary, and she's like, we wired you the information. Did you get it? Not only that, if they're spying on you, hacked your computer, they can see when you've opened the email. Then as soon as you do, they call you and say, and then it even comes up in your caller ID correctly. And they're like, can you read back the number for us to confirm it? We just sent it over. And you think it's real. Everybody can fall for this stuff. So I'm not going to be too harsh on this lady, but the story is absolutely funny. And I don't know, what a long-winded video about nothing, I guess. I don't know. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.